Progressive Talk 1450 KPTR.
You're listening to Blonde and Dangerous on Progressive Talk, AM 1450 KPTR. Our guest this Saturday morning is Lee Macey, and he's with Southwest Border, but he's also here for Earth Day, and I'm Katie Merkin. Hi, Lee.
Hi, Katie. How are you?
Good. I'm so happy to have you on today to talk about Earth Day, which is April 22nd.
Sunday.
Yes. Why don't you start off, because I didn't even know this about you until just now when we were talking off air, that you are actually a big environmental enthusiast.
I am. In fact, as I was saying to you, I was 18 years old in 1970 when the first Earth Day event took place, and it was a rather remarkable and uplifting and actually positive movement. 20 million people showed up to celebrate and honor the Earth that first year in 1970. And it just felt that people had come together to honor something and bring a lot of positive energy to and attention to the Earth, which up to that moment in time had gotten very little attention from either political powers or even the general public. I think I also mentioned to you, it's kind of interesting as a little historical footnote, in 1965, 5 years before the first Earth Day, the American public, 17% of the American public rated the environment as a top priority. And by the time the first Earth Day rolled around in 1970, that number had climbed to 53%.
And that was due in part, you say, because of the founder of Earth Day, who is the senator from Wisconsin.
Gaylord Nelson, yes.
Gaylord Nelson just sort of started a grassroots push for environmental awareness.
Exactly. He was a strong environmentalist from Wisconsin. He was, long before the first Earth Day, he was pushing for environmental legislation just to on many fronts.
Do you know what kind of legislation he was pushing for? Clean
water, clean air. He went right down to food in terms of the components, the chemical components that were put into food, so contamination. There was literally no strong interest in Washington prior to Earth Day to do anything about the environment. So if you go through the history of environmental legislation, it's all after this time. It's the result of the beginning of a grassroots push to recognize that our environment is a national priority, a top priority, in fact.
Why do you think that there was so much interest with just your average, person, but there was not a lot of interest from the politicians? Is it just because financially it's expensive to put those sorts of acts or legislation into law, or what was the reason?
I don't think there was any momentum. I don't think any politician outside of the few that were really considered activists and cared about the environment, that there was no interest in the public to actually support that kind of work. So if you're going to spend your time in Washington trying to get yourself reelected, you're probably going to focus on issues that people really think are important. Well, if you got 17% of the public, that only 17% and 65 that thinks that it's important, your constituents aren't going to be talking to you about an unimportant issue or looking at you as working on an insignificant issue. By the time 1970 rolls around, you got 53% who think that this is something you got to pay attention to. Everybody stood up and started taking notice. So once there was traction politically, I think you saw the momentum on the legislative front.
Was that in part at all due to the oil concerns that were?
I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure I could single out any particular issue. I honestly believe it was is a shift in how people began to think about our resources. And at the time, the prevailing sentiment in the country was deeply divided over the Vietnam conflict, and it was so much of a struggle in the country politically that the Earth Day movement almost seemed to be a great release valve that was sort of not politically charged. It brought people together from all spectrums. It was something that how could you not care about clean water? or clean air, or pollutants that are in food. It was a unifying movement, and I think it continued to be so. Right now, what is it, the 42nd anniversary? I think it's the 42nd. And
your math is probably better than mine.
Well, I'm doing it by my 60 years of age when I was 18, so it's got to be 42 years. And 185 countries now participate in this worldwide. And there's no organization. This is not something that's run by a foundation. It has no centrally located office.
Well, didn't the United Nations finally put out a sort of declaration about Earth Day or something?
Yes, but still in and of itself, whatever happens around the world on Earth Day is entirely the result of individuals and groups that have come together to assemble and to express their love of the Earth, and I think their activism. Yeah.
And you said there was a defining moment when this senator all of a sudden decided, maybe if no one in Washington will listen, I can go to the people. What was that moment?
He was on an airplane, and I think he was jaunting from San Jose to Sacramento or something. He was reading an article, and the article was focused on how the teaching model on the college campuses at that time was transforming individuals' perspectives. And that was a period of time, again, largely where the teachings were associated with the war movement or the anti-war movement. And he thought, well, that actually could mobilize on the environmental movement. And this was a man who had been struggling since 1963, trying to get his colleagues in the Senate and in Washington to take legislation up seriously, but none of them would hear. So you have this almost light bulb moment where he sees the mechanism for change isn't going to come from the top down, it'll come from the bottom up. And to discover that, to put it out there, to almost let go of it because he wasn't in charge of it, and have a result of 20 million people show up is rather astounding. At least it is to me.
Yes. And your background is in biology. Did you pick biology because of your love of hiking, or what made you decide on biology?
It's going to sound a little bit strange. My area of specialty was morphology, and I'd studied the development of form. So it was more a visual thing for me. I used to love looking through microscopes and drawing. Back in those days, you still had to draw what you saw on a microscope. You didn't necessarily have all the photographic equipment. So it was more of a love of the art of biology, and that's translated in time to an appreciation for shape and form in the natural world, whether it's a plant, whether it's a boulder, whether it's a shadow, and for that matter. I'm pretty visual, I guess, and that's what I liked about biology. So. Yeah.
So, and the reason why people might be wondering, well, why was it a surprise to you, Katie, that Lee was so interested in the environment, since you have him on here talking about Earth Day? But the reason why is because you actually work for Southwest Boulder, which redoes lawns and people's, where they live,
right,
or work or wherever,
right.
And the reason why I have you on is because one of the things that you do for your company is try and help people who maybe have a grass lawn and it's expensive, or they don't want to have such upkeep. You try and make it an environmentally sort of good.
Yeah. Well, here's where you can almost trace the history. If you look at what California has finally realized, and that we're in a state of drought, and it's severe, and finally putting together from the legislative perspective a requirement that we learn to redesign our water management systems, and that will now trickle down onto the general public, where the usage of water has to be far more carefully managed.
And that's why I wanted to have you on today, because one of the things, since being Earth Day, on the 22nd. One of the things people can do is stop, even if you're not going to go to some environmental rally or something like that. You can stop and look at your own home and look around and see what can I do to, conserve.
Exactly.
So if someone is looking at their backyard right now and they are wondering, what can I do to make my yard look nice and also conserve water, what are some of the things that you tell people that they can do?
Oh, I think the first thing I would ask people to do is to notice their irrigation system, whatever is in place, and their irrigation schedule. So based on what they have in place, are they using more water than they have to in order to maintain the existing landscape? And the water districts are pretty good about helping people with that. I'm sure there are many, many outdated systems that people just, you don't see it, it's buried. You just see the sprinkler heads that people just don't think of as requiring maintenance. So you've got, overspraying, you've got overwatering, times of the day that you shouldn't be doing it, that in fact you are doing it. So it would be, at the very top level, the easiest thing for someone to do would be to just look at how much water they're using outside to, maintain their yard. And what I think is going to happen, the water districts have already established what they consider to be budgets for an average residential household. And if your bill is going beyond the budgeted amount, which is based on the history of your water usage, you're going to get a notice. And the notice is going to basically say you need to be able to withdraw this, you need to be able to reduce the amount of water you're using, or be penalized. That's all in relation to the huge issue of cutting back by 2020. This is the new law in California, the long-term plan. By 2020, 20% of the water usage has to be conserved over now. So you've got until 2020 to get there. And if you think that's ambitious, it's almost too little too late in some respects, because here's the deal. We don't withdraw all of our water from the aquifer and that's it. We recharge the aquifer every single time it gets below a certain level. And where does that water come from? It comes from the Colorado River. I don't know the last time you took any sort of pictures of the Colorado River in the Delta area, but that's a system that has essentially been dried up. There is no more. So if we think of ourselves as that, okay, we can just turn on the tap water and spray our lawns, because next year, whatever we took out of the ground is going to be replaced with something that comes from the Colorado River, you're not really getting the message. And I think that an understanding of those physical realities, those realities of what's available for the resource, is compelling enough to get someone to think a little bit more than twice about what it is that they're using on their front lawn.
What is the difference between the state having cutbacks or having water issues in our local area? Because I know we have a huge aquifer underneath the Coachella Valley here, and we're doing a little bit better in terms of having water available than the state is, even though I know that our aquifer is going down. So what's the difference between the state and locally?
The state established minimum guidelines for water management, and it left it up to all of the water districts to develop their own guidelines that had to be at least as stringent as the state level. In fact, the Coachella Valley Water District model is even more stringent than the state. So there's local control among to handle things, and that's where you're going to see some differences in efficiency. There's also the price point issue that allows people to feel the pressure of increased water bills because they're going to be on a tiered rate, and that's already gone into effect. So if you have to pay more for something that you're not used to paying for, and that's a significant increase, then I hate to say it, but that's probably the largest pressure, pushing someone towards conserving water.
Sure, because if people aren't really interested in paying attention to, well, I don't really need to fix this old system that I have in place, but then they see that it's costing them more. They might want to just say, well, instead of spending more money every single month, maybe I should just do a one-time upgrade and then keep my bill down.
Exactly. Yeah, it's management of, exactly right.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about this more, and for anyone who doesn't know, Earth Day, the 22nd, yay! So we're listening to Blonde and Dangerous on Progressive Talk AM 1450 KPTR. Our guest this Saturday morning is Lee Macey of Southwest Boulder. And I'm Katie Markin. We'll be right back.
Progressive Talk 1450 KPTR.
Do you suffer from PTFD or post-traumatic fuel disorder? Symptoms occur while paying for gas and include, but are not limited to, sporadic foul language,
$4.05 a gallon? Son of a...
fainting, and uncontrollable sobbing.
If you answered yes to any of the above, get to Palm Springs Kia today. Palm Springs Kia wants your gas-guzzling trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, so you can drive home a new Kia for less. Yes, less than you're paying now. 2012 Kia Soul with up to 36 miles per gallon, just $99 per month. 2012 Kia Optima, America's hottest midsize sedan with up to 42 miles per gallon, just $149 per month. All new Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Our special finance department even offers guaranteed approval if you have credit issues. Palm Springs Kia in the Cathedral Auto Center, Highway 111 at Perez, or online at palmspringskia.com. 36-month lease, $48.92 with signing plus tax, title with approved credit. Lessee responsible for mileage over 12K per year at 20 cents per mile. Zero security deposit. Model B1511 and 53222. All incentives to dealer. Must have job and make $350 a week for guaranteed approval.
The most exciting event of the season is fast approaching. Get your tickets now for the Evening Under the Stars Gala, Saturday, May the 5th at the O'Donnell Golf Course in Palm Springs. With guest stars Lena Kazan and Barbara Eden, the evening also includes cocktails, dinner, and dancing to a live performance by the Go-Go's. Proceeds benefit AIDS Assistance Program of Palm Springs. For tickets, call 760-325-8481 or go to aidsassistance.org. Evening Under the Stars. Brilliant.
Discover the freshest and best locally grown produce every week in the Coachella Valley at the Certified Farmers Markets, with locations in Palm Springs, Palm Desert, La Quinta, and now Coachella. These are the Coachella Valley's only state and county certified farmers markets. Fruits, vegetables, meats, and other products at the markets have been grown on California certified farms and by local farmers. Come on out from 8 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. every Saturday in Palm Springs and Coachella, Sunday in Old Town La Quinta, and Wednesday in Palm Desert. The certified farmers markets are sponsored by the Palm Springs Cultural Center. To learn more, log on to certifiedfarmersmarket.ning.com.
More than 5 million Americans have a heart condition known as atrial fibrillation, or AFib. It affects both men and women and is more common in older people. I'm Assemblywoman Fiona Ma from California. Women in Government urges you to learn the warning signs of AFib, which include an irregular heartbeat that can lead to such complications as dementia, heart failure, stroke, or even death. Other signs include palpitations, shortness of breath, weakness or difficulty exercising, chest pain, dizziness or fainting, and fatigue. 15% of all strokes in the U.S. are linked to AFib, and they are more severe than other strokes, with a 50% likelihood of death within 1 year. People who have AFib can live normal, active lives. For some, treatment can cure AFib and return the heart to its normal rhythm. Educate yourself today. To learn more about risk factors and how AFib impacts you, visit womeningovernment.org. That's womeningovernment.org.
You're listening to Blonde and Dangerous on Progressive Talk AM 1450 KPTR. Our guest this Saturday morning is Lee Macey of Southwest Boulder, and he's here for Earth Day. And I'm Katie Markin. Hi, Lee.
Hi, Katie.
I just think it's so fantastic that we have you here because you know a lot about environmental issues, and then you also know about the artistic or creative side of helping the environment. And one of the ways people can do that is by sort of redoing their landscape at their house. And I want you to talk a little bit about what went on last Sunday, was it?
Yes.
Where you sort of had you had some type of a tour? Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, Southwest Boulder, along with the city, the Sustainability Office, and the two Water Districts, Desert Water Agency in Mission Springs, the Cactus Mart, and I think Vintage Nurseries, we all sponsored the Desert Horticultural Society's annual garden tour. And this is the 7th year they've had it, that they've run it. And the Desert Horticultural Society is committed to showing people how desert planting, water conserving plants can be used in a very sort of spectacular way. And a way that they introduce their mission to the public is they open up 4 or 5 or 6 different private homes, gardens, every year where the public can visit them for a 2 or 3 hour period on a Sunday afternoon. And this last Sunday there were 5 homes in the greater Palm Springs area, ranging from just spectacular displays of garden art, metal sculptures, pots, water features, to, stark boulder, cacti, paver. But what I like about the event, because I've been doing this for about 7 years now, is that I'm always surprised at what somebody else has come up with. So if anybody wants to really begin to think about what they want to do, they should first and foremost, once they've checked their sprinkler system in the backyard on Earth Day, is take a walk. Find somebody that you know that has a yard that maybe is behind the gate, not in the front yard. Get excited by somebody else's idea. And I plug the Desert Horticultural Society because I think they do such good work, and they've grown. I think there were 800 people that attended that event last Sunday, and again, the range of installations, desert landscape installations, was just stunning, way beyond what I would have been able to come up with on my own.
If folks who are listening want to see any of these pictures, if they Googled the annual garden tour, they would pop up?
Yeah, they'd be able to find pictures on the website, yeah.
So if someone wants to maybe redo their own yard and get some ideas, that's a good place to start. Where else should someone look?
Well, they should come and visit me.
At South
They should, yeah. Because, again, undertaking the conversion of a turf landscape to a desert landscape can be daunting. There are a lot of options. First of all, there is the design element. If you're not comfortable with, doing it yourself, we don't design per se, but we can acquaint you with material selections that give you options. And we know enough about what is and isn't suitable in terms of material selection to kind of guide you through the early stages of picking the materials. Most people want to come in with an idea of what sort of color they want to either match their house or because they have a favorite color, and so we can pretty much pull together a palette of what they might want to use. In addition to that, we can probably direct them to either a contractor who could help them out, or a designer if they want to go that route. I want to add something to what we had talked about a little earlier in the first portion. The city of Palm Springs has a turf buyback program. I'm not sure if maybe you're not familiar with it. Yeah, and
just the city of Palm Springs?
Well, no, it's been tried throughout the valley. Palm Desert's done it, Cathedral City's done it, but the city of Palm Springs just finished, I think it's their second offer, where they have funds available through the Sustainability Council to provide matching grants for individuals, homeowners, and larger installations, homeowners associations, that equals $1 a square foot if you're converting from turf to a desert landscape. And I think for the individual homeowner, it's a matching grant up to $500 which is significant. So if you consider you've got $500,000 in your pocket to start with, if you follow the guidelines that the city has provided, then that's $500 that you may have saved in pulling out your old sprinkler system. That program it expires at the end of this month. If you're not done, you're not eligible, but it'll pick up again in September. So if there's anybody who is thinking that, okay, I want to do this, but it does cost money, is there some relief there? Yeah, I would check with the city of Palm Springs and get on their list for the next go-around, because I spend a lot of time with people, homeowners, who have taken advantage of this, and with HOA communities who have filed their applications. It's not terribly difficult, followed the guidelines, and in fact received the grant money back from the city.
That's really interesting to know.
Yeah. And this, you can just check with the City of Palm Springs, the Office of Sustainability. They're good folks.
Is the Office of Sustainability, is that a state government body, or is that a city?
It's a commission. It's a city group that was put together in the last couple of years, and the gal who runs it is quite charming and wonderful. Michelle Macea, and I hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. I actually saw her on Sunday. She was promoting something at the fair on bike pads that City of Palm Springs is looking to put in. So.
Okay. Am I wrong, or whenever it seems like I go to someone's home who has grass, it seems like they have more ants? Is that true?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. That would be interesting. Well, there's moisture. I mean, I don't know. I assume that would have something to do with attracting ants. So if you've got a real reduced water drip system in your front yard, you haven't got a lot of extra thing to attract ants. But
because that's one of the reasons why everyone says, "Oh, you have boys," because I have two boys. I have an 11 and 13-year-old boy. Two of them, and each time that people come over to my house and then see him playing in the dirt, they're like, "You should put grass in." And the reason why I haven't actually is less financial and more because I always feel like that grass in the desert attracts ants.
I don't know, but it certainly does require you to cut the grass and you got to water it.
Yeah, I have boys for that though.
Yeah, there you go. You're lucky. I'm just not a big fan of it. I have allergies, and so every year when they start scalping all the lawns, I spend most of my time indoors, which is not nice.
No. So what type of landscape is sort of in right now, if you will? I mean, is it the recycled glass, or is it water features, or what are people doing?
Well, that's why I'm saying these 5 homes that I toured on Friday, on Sunday, were just eye-opening because...
Yeah, tell me about them.
Well, one of them was just almost completely garden art. With recycled glass, with pottery, with metal sculpture, with fire pits, with boulders that were used, or rocks that were used to sculpt out different kinds of animals. One was completely barrel cacti.
Was it expensive art? Did it look like they spent a lot of money, or did they make it themselves, or how was it?
I think that the homeowner is kind of a collector, so there may have been pieces that were sort of choice pieces, but a lot of it seemed to me to be found, sort of like found art, understated, metal pieces that were, almost. Who was it that said? Was it Thomas Edison said? The imagination. Progress only requires a great imagination and a lot of junk, and it's something like that. And some of what you see in garden sculpture is sort of recycled metal stuff.
I know. Well, I bought at Angel View an old piece you could tell was from a fountain, and it was like some cherubs, and it's chipping away, like the plaster's chipping away. But I just put it out in my front, and I had a garage sale and people kept trying to buy that. I said no. There's
something to what appears to be well used and worn that lends some authenticity to it.
Definitely. I'm just pulling up on my phone as we're speaking the annual garden tour. I Googled it on my iPhone, but I can't see the pictures very well because I don't have my glasses on. But I see there's some really beautiful flowers and things like that.
Well, that's the other thing. I think that there's a misunderstanding of what desert landscaping is all about. Color is not missing from...
No, I see pink and red
and greens.
Yes, and looks like there's a water feature on here. And then there was someone singing. I don't know what that was about. Maybe, was someone singing in their backyard on the garden tour?
Not that I was aware.
Okay, well, maybe it was something else I pulled up, but I definitely want to go check that out after I get off air, because it sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
What was your favorite home? Where was it?
Oh, I'd have to say the last one, which was on Alejo. There was an absolutely spectacular boulder installation that rivaled anything.
Tell me, what's a boulder installation exactly?
Well, it's a really good question. It's a use of boulders, and when I say boulders, it could be anywhere from 2 foot to 3 foot. But in this case, the truly impressive ones are This is 5 and 6, 7
Massive.
footers. Yeah, and the objective that appeared to me, the objective from the sighting of the home on the street was that it was as much a privacy barrier as it was anything else. But the boulders that were used were so perfectly placed that it looked like they'd always been there. And you don't often see that. You oftentimes see people who you think, well, they're trying to do the right thing, and they're putting a boulder in the front yard, and they just sort of drop it, not knowing that in fact it needs to probably be buried about a third of its volume needs to be below the ground grade, so you can actually think that it's been there for a while, and it can be tipped and oriented and tilted. Boulders have character. They have grain. They have a vertical and they have a foot. They have there's a way to actually put them in place and make them look like they belong there. So I'm Southwest Boulder and Stone. I'm kind of crazy about the use of boulders in landscape.
Oh, I am too. I'm a rock hound.
Yeah.
I just love, every time I go to Quartzsite, I used to go to Arizona about once a month. I would just stop there and look at rocks and buy rocks. So I can understand your appreciation.
Yeah. And then in addition to the boulders and that, the landscaping had some of the most spectacular array of cacti that were mature almost. I mean, it was a fully done job. It was probably...
Was this in Palm Springs or
yes,
Palm...
in Palm Springs, yeah.
So are you looking for people for next year?
Well, you'd have to talk with them. I'm not a member of the Desert Horticultural Society. I just, we're one of the sponsors, and that's partly what Southwest Boulder is all about.
Where does Southwest Boulder get the boulders? Is it you just dig them up and it leaves a big hole in the ground, or what do you do?
We get them from quarries, so they come from a lot of different places. And
it must be expensive to move them over here, isn't it?
Well, that's what you're talking about when it comes to landscaping materials. It's moving massive amounts of materials from one place to another, and since we are still dependent on jet fuel to run trucks, and you know where that is these days in terms of price, yes, it's expensive. But you might think this, if you want to be more environmentally conscious about using landscape materials to convert from turf to desertscape, is that ask about materials that are more locally quarried. Because
what materials are those?
Well, there's anything from what's called a decomposed granite, a DG, which is, you see like the sand that you see in the front yards and stuff, a DG, or a crushed rock that's quarried 3/8 or a 3/4, or even boulders. If they're coming from quarries that are within 100 miles of Palm Springs, you're actually doing more than just saving water. You're saving some energy. The carbon footprint that's going into doing your installation is you're using local materials. And, that's another thought. And it tends to be less expensive. That's a way to do two good things at the same time. One, conserve the amount of energy that you're using to actually do your conversion from turf to desertscape. And two, you're saving yourself some money.
What type of material is the thing to use now? Oh, we're going to have to go pretty soon, but what are the materials used for irrigation now? Is it different than they were using 25 years ago, or is it still...
No, it's very different. I think that's where a lot of the water districts first started their conservation efforts, was to get into what they called smart sprinkler systems. I'm not real conversant in the varieties of irrigation that's available. I just know that if you talk to somebody who's an irrigation person, that there's been huge advances in installing smart adapters and controllers, and yes, it's miles and miles and miles and miles down the road.
So even if you did work 20 years ago, there's some new stuff now.
A lot. There's a lot of new stuff.
Sounds good. We'll be back in a second, but first you're listening to Blonde and Dangerous on Progressive Talk, AM 1450 KPTR. Our guest this Saturday morning is Lee Macey of Southwest Boulder, and he's here for Earth Day. And I'm Katie Markin. We'll be right back.
Hi, Ron and Andy and the Car Doctor. Time for another Motoring Minute. Your brakes. Well, we've talked about them quite a bit here as we go over automobiles, because brakes are such a key, critical component of your vehicle's stopping ability. Let's face it, your brakes, what's stopping you? But do you have them checked often enough? Are you the type that waits until the brakes make a noise before you make a move to take a look at them? And if you are, then consider this. Chances are your vehicle's brakes need to be looked at least once a year, depending upon how much you drive. Waiting until the sensors squeal or the brakes make contact with the rotor metal on metal and they start to grind is going to cost you more money and possibly be a safety issue down the road. So consider making brake repairs something to do preventatively before there's a problem. Make it a point. Once a year, check your car's braking system. You'll feel better and stop better. With your Motoring Minute, I'm the car doctor, Ron Ananian.
Shaquille O'Neal for Icy Hot.
If you've got pain, you need the patch.
The Icy Hot Patch. Powerful, targeted, fast-acting pain relief that stays put without the mess. Icy to dull the pain, hot to relax it away. In a variety of sizes, from back, shoulders, knees, even arthritis. So you're covered whenever and wherever you're hurt. Stop pain right at the source with Icy Hot Patches.
Pain's no match for the Icy Hot Patch.
For temporary topical pain relief, use only as directed.
Do you smell something burning?
Oh yeah, nothing to be alarmed about, just my pants on fire.
Why are your pants on fire?
I've had this $50 gift card in my wallet for weeks, and I can't figure out what to do with it. Guess it's burning a hole in my pocket.
Well, I've got an idea for that smoldering gift card. For $50, buy an HD radio. You get all the local stations in town, plus some great new ones. And it'll definitely solve your smoking pants problem.
Yeah!
For information on HD radio stations in your market, go to hdradio.com. More stations.
More value.
HD Radio. More of what you listen to.
My dad's Mercedes Z-Class has 26,000 miles on it, but I'm taking it to a billion zillion.
Of all the things you hand down to your children, very few will be of the quality of a certified pre-owned Mercedes-Benz. Because a certified pre-owned Mercedes-Benz is 100% through and through a Mercedes-Benz. And right now, during our certified pre-owned sales event, you can get exceptional 1.99% financing on select models. Every one of our certified pre-owned vehicles undergoes a rigorous inspection by factory-trained technicians to ensure it meets the uncompromising standards of Mercedes-Benz. And considering we invented the automobile, those standards are indeed high. Plus, a warranty and roadside assistance for up to 5 years and 100,000 total miles. And now, with 3 months of Sirius satellite radio.
Thanks in advance, Dad.
Hurry into the Mercedes-Benz Certified Pre-Owned Sales event, now through April 30th. And remember, if it's not at your authorized Mercedes-Benz dealer, it's not certified pre-owned.
See dealer or call 1-800-F4-Mercedes for complete program, including certified pre-owned, limited warranty, and Sirius satellite radio details and limitations. Not all customers are qualified for advertised APR and is subject to prior credit approval.
Progressive Talk 1450 KPTR.
You're listening to Blonde and Dangerous on Progressive Talk, AM 1450 KPTR. Our guest this Saturday morning is Lee Macey of Southwest Boulder, and he's here for Earth Day, and I'm Katie Markin. Earth Day is the 22nd.
Sunday,
and you were there for the first official one.
I was. I was there for 1970.
What were you wearing? Do you remember? Were you dressed like a hippie?
Yes.
Well, so you have long hair.
I had long hair.
And a vest with, like,
no vest.
Fringe. Oh, no shirt?
No vest. Definitely jeans and long hair, yeah.
Cool. And so were you a hippie when you were in college?
I wouldn't say I was a hippie, but I certainly was on the outside of the mainstream establishment, yeah.
Because now you're wearing khakis and a polo shirt.
This is true.
So over time, but you still at heart are an environmentalist, and
oh yeah, I think once an environmentalist, always an environmentalist, and again, I think it's one of the most benign things you can be, to do good in the world. I don't see it as being a particularly radical protest.
I'm curious, because of the business where you work, after the big Al Gore movie and the ozone layer awareness came about, did you see people also wanting to move environmentally in their landscape, or were those two things connected at all?
I wouldn't be able to see any direct connection between the two. It's more of a trend over time. I think that who knows what actually motivates people to make changes that are more conservation oriented. If it's the water bill, so be it. If it's a conscience or an effort, then so be it. But or
your kids nagging you. Nowadays, they're in the schools. They talk about it all the time.
Well, I think that's
my son,
a lot of it.
My faucet was dripping, and I came in the kitchen, and my son was like forcing it. Mom, you got to fix this. Do you know how many gallons of water you're wasting?
There you go. Like, I was a kid back in 1970 almost, but so my parents had listened to what we had to say. But That's an encouraging sign that the next generation has actually come up to think about something as ubiquitous as water is something that needs to be conserved. Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about the recycled glass that you folks have, because I love it. Instead of even having flowers in my little flower bed in front of my house, I just put the recycled glass, and then I just have a little potted plant.
Yeah.
And it looks so pretty. Everybody who comes by my house says how nice it looks. I just love that stuff.
I saw a lot of that. In fact, this brings up a good point. Southwest Boulder and Stone just this past year created a new division, and it's called the Garden Division, and they specialize in sort of specialty recycled glass, pebbles and tumble pebbles, materials that are normally only available in bulk are now available in a bag. So if you only need, 40, 80 pounds of a material, you don't have to, order it for delivery. You can just pick it up and take it home in a bag. So they feature a lot of I think, rather gorgeous materials that can be used in a small space area. Pots or,
Yeah, and you know what else is cool about it? I was just thinking is that one of the reasons, I know, like, my girlfriend did her lawn and she got grass because she wanted color. But if you look on Country Club in the middle of the divider where they have the sand there, they do have recycled glass there. That's that aqua color that looks like water almost.
That's blue ice. That material came from us, and it was installed.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I bought it from you.
Yep, City of Palm Desert.
It looks so pretty.
Yes. Yeah.
And so you don't have to just have all earth tones.
No.
If you do desert landscape, you can have color too.
I think if you take a clue from just the natural world, the vegetation, that you can have the color from the flowers, what comes off of them. I mean, look at a jacaranda tree, look at a Palo Verde, look at all these gorgeous kind of desert yellows. Yellow is a spectacular color in the desert, and it's my favorite color to use actually. But yeah, the recycled glass on a larger scale, it gets to be expensive. So that's why I emphasize, and I think that the Garden Division is oriented toward smaller scale use of materials that may be more expensive on a per pound basis, but in fact in quantities used smartly or wisely would highlight and accent your garden in a way that you couldn't get if you just used a plant.
What else do you have as far as recycled glass goes? You have the big, like the ice you were talking about.
The blue ice, yeah.
The blue ice, and then you have the fireplace size.
The fireplace glass.
What else do you have?
And we have actually we have like recycled glass small boulders.
Oh, wow.
They're 80 to 150 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
what would you do with something like that? Where would you put it?
To my mind, I think as a single piece, as a focal point in an installation on top of a wall or even embedded in a wall, you wouldn't want to have too much of it.
By a wall, do you mean in your backyard?
Yeah.
Where it found, like, as a water feature?
Or even if you're building a wall, to embed it.
Oh.
So it looks like
you mean if you're putting in a concrete wall,
yes,
like around your property?
Yes.
Oh, okay, like sort of a fence, and then you have a piece of recycled glass. Oh my gosh, that's so creative.
Yeah, just kind of draws your attention to one thing, and the colors are great.
Do you have a picture of that on your webpage or anything?
We do.
Like that?
Oh, our website, southwestboulder.com, is full of some really wonderful material ideas, photographs. There's a green page where we emphasize our commitment to conservation and employs materials that can be considered to be water conserving. But yes, you can see all those exotic things, whether it's a polished pebble to a glass. Yeah.
What are you doing personally for Earth Day? Anything special? Gonna go have a picnic?
It's a very good question. I think I'll probably spend some time in my backyard.
That's good.
I got some weeds that are growing, and it's getting hot enough now so I can get rid of it.
Do you think it's wrong to spray the weed chemicals? Or you think it's better to pull them, or what? How do you feel about that?
I don't use the Roundup. I don't use the chemicals.
How come? What?
I don't know. I guess I feel like on the one hand, gardening is really a labor of love, and I'm not a a full-time major gardener. I don't get me wrong, but I do think that you got to get your hands in the dirt, and you got to, whenever I have been involved with it, pulling weeds is part of the thing. Spraying them and watching them die is kind of like the antithesis of being a garden, watching things grow. so it's an ethic.
Is it bad for the water to have the?
Of course, chemical runoff. Yeah, that's a lot of problems that they have with the water management is runoff. That contains,
because even if the aquifer is going up, if the water that's in the aquifer is tainted, then that's not much better.
Yeah, well, the whole issue with the aquifer being depleted and then the recharging it, and then what happens to the water that's runoff through through the cities and stuff that has contaminants in it. Yeah, it's a big deal. Big deal.
What else can people do for their lawn in their home? What are some of the ideas that you give people to improve their conservation at their house?
I try to engage them on a level of participation that makes it fun.
Oh, okay.
And you'd be surprised at how many people come in, and I see every day, who really are looking forward to doing it. They're not just being pushed into it. They actually are taking it as a project that they really want to do. And certainly some of them are not quite as enthusiastic as they might be, having fun. But for the most part, they are. And it kind of gets you. Once you start thinking about what you could do, once you get yourself over that first hurdle and you start to talk to people like me, talk to people like your neighbors, talk to somebody who's got a garden, you start to think that I can do this. And it's kind of like fun as you get older to be able to create something that's you never thought you could do in the first place.
Do you have boulders where the smaller ones where you can kind of put them around in some design and then you put dirt on them and then you have, I forgot what they're called. They're called like a, and then different greenery grows out and it's almost like a piece of like succulents.
Yeah. We don't sell the plant material, but yeah, we've got all the rock material that you could do.
How much does something like that cost?
The basic. You're talking about using maybe a desert cobble type material that could be an 18-inch minus, and it's like 70.
That's like Greek to me.
Well, it's like 18 inches, meaning it's a foot and a half, down to maybe 6 inches.
Oh, okay.
So these are little tiny rounded head-sized boulders, in that size range. And
do they have holes in them? Is that what they do so things can grow out, or is it? How do they work?
Oh, that would be a different material. Lava boulders you could use with that. But
is it bad luck to have lava? Because everyone says you shouldn't bring lava over from Hawaii. It's bad luck.
Fortunately, the lava that we have in the yard doesn't come from Hawaii.
Okay.
So no one's being hexed with they buy lava rock. It's California.
Where's the lava come from? California.
Yeah.
Where?
I don't know exactly.
How many quarries are there around here?
That's a good question for my purchasing department. I don't get involved in that side of it. I'm a little bit familiar with it, but I don't really know the full. I know that there's a lot. Yeah.
Because are they just specifically for digging up boulders and things like that, or did they start off as one thing and then turn into that? Do you know how that works?
In some cases, I think that it was construction site material that was moved out, and so rather than just discard what was material, you find a way to reuse it. And so a construction project that went through a mountain, blasted through a mountain to do a highway, whatever, produced a supply of material that had to go somewhere. But then again, there are quarries that actually, specifically blast the boulder material.
I got kind of a cool rock in my front yard because remember when Rancho Mirage was taking all their power lines and putting them underneath the ground?
Yeah.
Well, they put them
underneath.
Yeah, they dug it up, and they said, "Do you want this rock?" I said, "Sure." They're like, "Where do you want us to put it?"
I have one that came out of the ground when they dug the hole for the pool.
Oh, cool!
Yeah.
That's kind of neat.
And I just said, "Okay, it ought to stay here." So
yeah. So I just said, "Put it by my mailbox."
Yeah.
Because then, in case someone runs into my mailbox, maybe they'll hit the rock instead.
That was nice of the city of Rancho Mirage. That's very nice.
Well, the people who were working, they were just very diligent, and it seemed like it was a good group. I don't know who they hired, but whoever they hired, they were really great people because you run into them every day for like a month.
Yes.
It's almost like becoming friends.
Yes.
I missed them when they were gone. I felt safe with all those construction people on my block. Anyway, any last things you want to mention about Earth Day or something? Any story about a home you changed where, because I love stories here, where the people came back to you and told you how great of a difference changing their landscape was?
Not any particular individual story, but I will tell you what gives me a lot of satisfaction is that I have people that come back all the time. So they've started with something, they thought they were done, and then they continue to keep going. So I have developed some personal relations and friendships with customers who have become, I guess they got bit by the bug, and then now they just keep doing it, and that to me is pretty rewarding. That says something. People like doing it.
And if someone is wanting to just start out in a small fashion, do you have anything there where they can set up a square footage area so they can start a garden?
Yes.
How much is that?
Oh, it depends on what you're going to put in it. Your material selection is going to determine your cost. So you give me this.
You do it for a few $100s though.
Easily, yeah.
And have tomatoes.
Yes.
And radishes.
I'm toying with that right now. I'm not sure, but I'm toying with the tomato idea.
The only thing that makes me nervous about tomatoes is the temperature's getting low and you don't want them to die. So what do? Do you just cover them up? Is that
That's what I would say, yeah. I have a problem with the worms, and I hate tomato worms. They're the ugliest things on the face of the earth.
Maggots, they're pretty bad too.
These are giant maggots.
Oh, yuck.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe I'll reconsider the tomato idea. Anyway, it's been so nice having you on, and happy Earth Day to everyone who's listening.
Happy Earth Day, yeah.
And hopefully people will find a nice way to celebrate by enjoying their backyard or the environment around them. You've been listening to Blonde and Dangerous on Progressive Talk, AM 1450 KPTR. Our guest this Saturday morning has been Lee Macey of Southwest Boulder, and he's been here for Earth Day. And I'm Katie.
If you're the mother of a child with behavior problems, I'd like to talk to you. My name is Janet Lehman. I'm a behavioral therapist and a mom. I know what it's like when the child you love becomes a defiant, out-of-control child who disrespects you. That's why my husband James and I created the Total Transformation, the program that tens of thousands of moms are now using to turn around their child's behavior. If you've heard about the Total Transformation and wondered if it will work for you, now you can try it for free. I'm willing to give away 1,000 programs today for free. All you need to do is get the program and let us know how it works for you. We'll let you keep it for free. I know the Total Transformation works because I used these techniques with my own son and with troubled kids for over 30 years. Let me prove to you that it works by giving you the program for free.
Call now, 1-800-327-7260. 1-800-327-7260. That's 1-800-327-7260.
The Palm Springs Cultural Center presents the Young Americans as they return to Palm Springs with an all-new song and dance extravaganza to celebrate their golden anniversary. 2 exclusive performances at the Palm Springs High School Auditorium May 12th and 13th, featuring a wide range of music, from traditional choral music to the latest Broadway hits and every type of dance, from classical ballet to hip-hop. It's fun-filled entertainment the whole family will love. Tickets are $25 each. Family 4-packs are just $80. Tickets at the Camelot Theater box office on Barristo Road in Palm Springs or online at CamelotTickets.com.
Voted best of the best at Camelot Theaters, you're entertained with Oasis. Meant to be savored, Delicacy is a sweetheart of a love story. Submerge yourself into the deep blue sea. Sophisticated and riveting British filmmaking. Israel's Oscar-nominated film Footnote, funny and smart. Emily Blunt and Ewan McGregor and Kristen Scott Thomas starring Salmon Fishing in the Yemen. A film brimming with spirit and surprise. Showtimes call 325-6565. Upstairs, it's Cocktails. On Barristo Road in Palm Springs, of course, it's Camelot.
1450 KPTR, Palm Springs.
NBC News Radio, I'm Melissa Rayberger. FBI agents have resumed their search for a 6-year-old boy missing since 1979 in Manhattan's Soho section. NBC's Michelle Franzen.
Investigators are back out here continuing their dig in the